Can you all hear me? Fantastic. All right. There was a lot of talks about AI today, so I just wanted to say AI is easy, AV is difficult, so we're going to have some of these things happen, but we're going to work through it. I'm really excited to be here. For how many of you this is the first time at Volcano? Raise your hand. Oh, wow. Fantastic. This is my first time too. Let me tell you what I'm really excited to be here. So, as you heard in the intro, my work involved designing experiences, gatherings that bring people together to spark curiosity and facilitate strategic conversations. Through all my work, I got a chance to work with some brilliant people, futurists, entrepreneurs, innovators, psychologists, and years of designing programs. I collected so many ideas and so many insights that I thought I'll bring a bunch of them together and share with you. You see, I love connecting people with ideas and with one another. So this is why I'm here. Why are you all here? I know you're here to meet some new people, learn new things, which is great. We're going to have a lot of that over the next 2 days, and I'm sure you got a lot of that already today. But I think we're all here because we're curious about the future, right? We're excited by it, we're terrified by it, but we have a vested interest in our future. And that's why I like to call that we're all future starters. You are spending so much time thinking about the future without even knowing it. You looked at the weather today to see if it's going to rain, and yeah, turns out it will. How many of you charged your phone last night not even knowing if there's going to be chargers around? Raise your hand. And I think there are chargers around. I've seen some chargers around. If anybody needs to charge your phone, come see me. I've got all the cables. But as much as all these actions may seem trivial, they actually tap into our unique ability to imagine a future experience in our heads before we go through it in real life. And in my mind, that is one of the superpowers that you have, that we have, not you specifically. I know, he was like, yes. So sorry to ruin the moment. It is a superpower we all have. And so much of our progress is a direct result of it. Our ability to think about later is an invention of our brilliant human mind. There's no other animal that can do this trick quite well like we can. But this is not new. We have been perfecting this superpower for thousands of years. There's a saying in English, red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. Anybody heard that saying before? English speaking, first language English speakers heard that say before. But in reality, for thousands of years, we have looked up to the sky and stars to make reasonable prediction about the near future. And this ability, this superpower, helped farmers and hunters sustain the community, and hunters and sailors navigate the seas and stay safe. Now, of course, today we use satellites, telecommunications, sensors, a lot of incredible technology. But the reality is, not a lot has changed. Our ability to predict the near future still very much depends on historical information, data. And unfortunately, it's not always the case that the more data we have, the better our predictions become. Sometimes, despite enormous amount of data, our superpowers fail us, and we become less effective in predicting the future. Especially when what's driving that future is technology. I love this quote by Ray Amar. He unfortunately passed away, but he was the president of the Institute for the Future for many years. And he said, we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. These gaps between our version of the future and the version of the future that actually happens is what I like to call blind spots. These are things that are all around us. We can kind of see them, but something is blocking us. We're unable to see those. Here's an example.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem. In fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
I mean, look at her face. She doesn't even believe this thing is going to work. I had to actually look it up. And you know this guy that she's talking about that's already using this brand new technology? You know what his claim to fame was? Well, I'm going to tell you. Meet Richard. He is famous because he owns a home computer. This is what this guy is famous for. And when you actually watch the thing, he has to, I mean, he looks pretty confused himself, to be honest, but he has to connect all these cables and move these dials and wait a long time, and then something shows up. And of course, this is not just the media industry. Across every sector, time and again, policymakers, investors, innovators, every one of us continuously and consistently underestimating how fast technology is changing the way we live and work. So, I want to ask you all, what is it about technology? Why, when it comes to technology, we have all these different blind spots? And I like to suggest that it has to do with two things. The first one is the fact that technology is accelerating. You've heard this before. I'm sure many of you have heard of Moore's Law, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but this is changing really fast, right? These sensors are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and so we put more of them on each circuit, which makes our computers stronger, which leads the way to the next breakthrough, and it creates that network effect. Did you see that, by the way? Was that going? I feel like it's so tripping. We could just like watch this for the rest of my talk and it'll be good. So, everything that is accelerating looks like this. I'm sure you've seen this graph before. And in the beginning, that's where we fail. When the technology just starts, we can't really see where it's headed. It's almost like we have this imagination gap. Let's check back with our reporter.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning...
Let's do this again.
Imagine, if you will,
Well, she ends up looking into this and saying, well, it takes over 2 hours, and with the hourly rate of $5, that's not going to be much competition for the 21st Street. I think this is actually exactly what she says. And so we quickly discount these things. Now, to make things even worse, it's not just that technology is accelerating, it's converging. Like that. You can be an expert in any one of these fields. Expert in AI, expert in biology. There's so many experts around. You've heard from so many experts today and over the next 2 days. But it's not enough. It's not enough to be an expert in one of these fields, because these blind spots, these innovations are coming from other sectors, other places, and it's converging, which makes it even harder to predict. So, as you've heard, I'm immersed in this stuff. And let me tell you, I have so many misses. I am constantly finding myself surrounded by these blind spots. And so I realized they're everywhere, right? I thought, I'm going to bring a few of these that I recently uncovered, and I want to see if you can spot them. This is where you come into this talk. So let's give it a try, okay? Anybody know who these individuals are? Raise your hand or shout it. Who is this young lady? Do you know? Louder, I have to hear it. Coco, that's right. Coco Gauff just recently won the US Open in tennis for the women's finals. She's actually the youngest American tennis player that won it since Serena Williams won it in 1999. Tennis fan? Tennis fan. Incredible. Who is this guy? Anybody know this guy? Raise your hand. Nobody knows this guy? No one knows this guy. Okay, I'll give you a few clues. Think carefully. His name is Kyle. He's clearly a teenager. He's 19 years old. He's from Pennsylvania. Okay, he goes by Booga online. Heard of him? No? All right. This next clue is going to be a big one. Anybody here is or has kids that play Fortnite? All right, a few. Do you play or do you have kids that play Fortnite? You play, okay. So we have a couple players here. So Kyle here won a game called Fortnite that many of you seems to never heard of it, but it is a big deal. So this is clearly one of your blind spot. And I can understand why you can be skeptical, right? Okay, Coco here. Let me tell you, I'm a very amateur tennis player, and what she's done, the grit, the mental and physical power and training that she had to go through to win this. Meanwhile, this guy, Kyle, is playing video games 20 hours a day. So I can see why you discount it. But what if I tell you that Coco and Kyle both won these tournaments in the same physical location? This is the Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City. Both Coco and Kyle won multi-million-dollar prize money based on their performance that day. And they've signed multi-year sponsors. It's quite unbelievable. Let's check out Kyle's winning moments, shall we? This is unbelievable. Look how many people are there. And for you to maybe see, all right, yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot more millions of viewers that watch this online. So just to put this in perspective, people like to refer to them as athletes. So Kyle here, the athlete, esports is now bigger than the movies industry and the music industry combined, all right? It is a giant industry. And clearly one of these blind spots. Let's bring up two new friends. This was a double blind spots for me. I had no idea who these people are until a few years ago. Does anybody know who these people are? All right, yeah, we've got somebody. Was it, do you know the dude or the, yeah, all right. Any other people here know who this guy is? Oh yeah, okay. Wait, where were you a minute ago? So, for those of you who don't know him, he goes by Mr. Beast. He's an American YouTube entrepreneur, okay? He's a big deal. Clearly, some of you know him. Have you watched any of his videos? He came up with this new genre. He basically walks around the streets, gives people lots of money for completing a challenge. You can see I'm getting old because I don't really get it, but he is a big deal. He has 186 million subscribers on YouTube. He's the #1 user on YouTube, which means that he made gazillion dollars, which is a real number, and now he's a philanthropist, so all good. So this is Mr. Beast here. I think his name is Kyle as well. Jimmy Donaldson. This is right? Yeah, look at this. He has some fans here. All right, Do you know who this nice young lady is? Anybody? Mr. Beast fans? No, you don't know who she is? Okay, her name is Micaela Sosa. She is a 19-year-old Brazilian model. I was introduced to Micaela by my friends at a boutique innovation consulting firm called Be Radical. She is an actor, she is a singer, she is a huge Instagram influencer. She's got millions of followers. She is a really big deal. She works with brands all over the world. And you may ask, what is this boutique innovation consulting firm that introduced me to a 19-year-old Brazilian model? And why? So the main reason is because Micaela is not real. She's a digital rendering made by an agency in LA, so she can interact with all her fans and work with all these brands. Micaela had amazing last few years, by the way. She had a great pandemic. She didn't get COVID once. And she was not worried about travel restrictions. She could be, I understand she's very easy to work with. She can be all over the world, sometimes at once. And she does amazing work, as you can clearly see. She started about 7 years ago, okay, in 2016. So this is how early these signals, these blind spots appear. 7 years ago. I mean, I was recently introduced to her, but apparently she's been doing this for many years. And it gets better, okay? Because Fortnite, that game we talked about, it was created by a company called Epic Games. And turns out that Epic Games, this is not scary at all. I'm going to move along. Epic Games creates something called the Meta Human Creator. So now, what used to take skilled teams many months, sometimes years, to create these digital beings, now this could be done in a matter of hours, okay? So no longer you have to spend a lot of money and a lot of time to create these. Do you all want to do another one? Should we do another blind spot? Yeah? You like this game? I'm the last speaker. We can be here as long as you want. I have 200 blind spots to walk you through. All right, but let's move away from these fake people into real things, sort of. These are two very different real estate companies. You all know this one, I bet. And I'm guessing you have no idea what this company does. So I got this picture from a friend of mine that I had in many of my programs. His name is Oren Berkovich. And he got it from the CTO of this company. This is their headquarters, okay? This entire company is run from here. I have no idea why he has a fax machine as a CTO, but the entire company is run from that little office. This is a $2.5 billion publicly traded real estate company that headquartered in this office. It's unbelievable. Well, Remax has to fly everybody and give them dry pastries. eXp Realty has built this campus for 30,000 agents that work for them. 30,000. It got so popular that they didn't have space in the virtual auditorium. People had to virtually stand because there were no virtual chairs. That's how popular it is. This is how it feels like to work at eXp Realty. Well, you'll see it. This guy is clearly frustrated. Essentially, you have this campus, you go all over, there's all sorts of offices, you can do all sorts of things. You meet some people, you don't need a headset, it's not one of these things that you have to be in the metaverse to do. You can do it on your own computer. And people love it. According to Glassdoor, in 2019, they were selected as one of the best places to work in. They too had a great pandemic, by the way. Nobody there had to worry about anything. In fact, I love this so much that a few years ago, we signed a partnership with the Canadian government, and we created a campus like this for students all over Canada. There's a few Canadians here, right? I know you two fellows. Any other Canadians in the audience? Any students in Canada now can go into this campus. It's called Wavemakers, and it's incredible thanks to these technologies. All right, this was fun. We had some blind spots. Thank you for participating. But we can't leave it at that, right? We have to figure it out. And I'd like to suggest that the way to see through these blind spots has to do with your mindset. But it's not straightforward, okay? So let me walk you through it. What do you see here? How many of you see a guy playing a saxophone? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you see a woman's face? Okay. There's a few people that didn't see anything. So let me show you. This is, imagine that's the guy playing a saxophone. This is kind of like the woman's face. Now you see it, those who can see anything? Okay. This is how they come together. And now that you see both, you can switch between, right? Don't worry if you can't switch between the two. Everything is fine with you, I think. I'm not an expert in visual illusions, but I think everything's fine with you. Either way, the idea here is that there's no right or wrong answers, right? And I love this, that both of these things are right at the same time. And I'm fascinated by this idea that I heard about from another person I've got a chance to work with over the years. His name is Jeffrey Rogers, and he talks about polarities, polarity management. Anybody heard that term? I mean, sometimes we would spend a full day working with executives and leaders about these things, but at a very, very high level, the idea is that you kind of need to move from either or to thinking about things as both and. Kind of like the example we saw. Now, these polarities, you are dealing with them and you're managing these polarities whether you know it or not. Here's some examples, okay? Personal polarities. You want to be direct, but you want to be diplomatic. You want to plan, but you want to take action, right? Humble, confident. And I can go on and on and on. By the way, I see a lot of people taking pictures. All these slides are going to be available. You don't need to worry about it. So we work through these on a daily basis, but it's not just people. Organizations go through polarities too. Here are some examples. Cost, quality. What do you prioritize? Change, stability. Are we going to invest more in R&D, or are we going to go to market sooner? Can't do both, right? Should we increase our profit margin, or should we go after market share? Can't do both. These are real tensions. So, to work through these polarities, it really has to do with your mindset. You see, embracing new mindsets doesn't mean you have to let go of an old one. Remember, it's not an either-or scenario. It's a both-and. We did a program a few years ago with Adam Leonard. He worked at Google School for Leaders. He works with the top leaders at Google. And when he talked about polarities, he said it's kind of like breathing, right? Think about it. You can't say that inhaling is more important than exhaling. You have to do both in order to breathe. And similarly, to see through these blind spots, you have to do both things at the same time. Here's some examples. Learner mindset and a leader mindset. Seems like they could be in opposite to one another, and it's true. Sometimes you hold the mic. Everybody's looking up to you. You need to make a decision. You need to provide guidance and instructions. But we all know the future is unexpected, unknown, unpredictable. So sometimes you have to be the learner. From my experience, it is about being comfortable not going back to the solutions that we feel comfortable, but actually be comfortable exploring the unknown. From my experience, the best leaders are also the best learners because they use curiosity as their strategic advantage. Here's another one. I think my friend Frederick is going to talk about this tomorrow, or maybe the last day. Abundance, scarcity. Two different mindsets. When is your ideas, your products, your services are the rarest resources on the planet, like diamond? You have to surround them and you have to sell them at a premium. But when can you actually take an ecosystem approach? Tesla is known for releasing all their patents, right? Things that they've invested years and millions to make. They just released these patents, all their IP. I heard they recently actually made all of their charging station open for any other car manufacturer. So here, to work through this, we have to replace control with influence. I've got the blinking sign here, so we're going to do only one last one. Intrapreneur and entrepreneur. One of my favorite ones. Are you all familiar with the concept of intrapreneur? This is basically an entrepreneur that works in a company, right? Think about it this way. If you're an entrepreneur, right, you work outside a company, you have an idea, you can pitch 100 different investors. You only need one person to say yes, and you got a little bit of seed money, and you can run an experiment. But if you're an intrapreneur, if you work inside an organization, sometimes you need 100 people to say yes, and it's enough that one of you say no, and these ideas go nowhere. It's the complete opposite. So here, we have to create the space for things that are both obvious and disruptive, and it's not straightforward. So let's bring this home. We said that these are some examples of the tensions, right? And we have to work on bringing multiple of these mindsets. But the next 2 days, this was a great first day, and the next 2 days, they're not about predicting the future. And trust me, that's a good thing. But I can tell you one thing with certainty. The future that you get to play, that your company gets to play, that this country gets to play, the role that you get to play, really depends on your mindset. You see, superpowers, blind spots, these are really just opportunities that are waiting to be discovered, and capabilities that you all have and you bring forward. Every day, we all wake up at this intersection between opportunity and capability. And we have to make a conscious decision. Are you going to opt out? Be a bystander? These technologies are moving fast. We all have these blind spots. We all focus on the near term. It's so easy to just not pay attention. But you could choose to embrace these different mindsets, to proactively think about which mindset you're bringing. You see, anyone has an ability to shape the future. I truly believe it. But it's the people in this room. We are fortunate enough to have these conversations, to have the networks we have, to have the resources we have, to be exposed to these ideas, to be invested in the future. We have the capabilities, and I argue we also have the responsibility to shape the future. This is the only way we're going to have true impact. Because ultimately, we are all future starters. And that's why we're here. Thank you so much.